Good day, everyone. Good day, Doc. I am going to present the title Group Teams and Conflict. So we will study how people cooperate, communicate, and rely on one another to achieve shared goals within a team. So at the end of this lesson, we will be able to explain the key concepts of teamwork, identify different types of teams, describe the stages of team development, recognize the different types of conflict that teams may encounter, and discuss the characteristics of effective teams. So, team works best in situations in which there is a high level of employee interaction, and that's why teams is required. When the job requires collaboration or specialized skills that cannot be done alone, so a team is necessary, like a hospital surgical team. So there should be a surgeon, nurses, and anesthesiology so that they can work together to make a surgery successful. And then teams are most effective when it will simplify the job. So there are tasks that are complex, and these are easier to handle when responsibilities are divided and coordinated, just like when you are hosting an event. So there should be people working for the program flow, preparation for the venue, and etc. So uh, working alone is very complicated, it's complex, so there should be a committee or teams to help you with that job. Okay, and then teams are most effective when a team can do something an individual cannot. So there are goals that require diverse skill, knowledge, or creativity that a single cannot provide. Like for example, when you develop a program, or you will create a design, a building. So there should be an architect, an engineer, and people who will be working for that building. Okay, and then lastly is proper team works best when there is a proper team composition. So it means that when you choose members who will be working in the team, there should be common skills, or they are able to collaborate with other members as well. So before we create a team, there are questions that we need to ponder, and that is number one. Sorry for the typo error po. So is teamwork necessary, and will it make the job easier? And then the second question that we need to ponder is that, can one person handle it alone? If the job needs more people, then we need to consider this question as well. And then, do we have the right people for the team? So if the answer points to teamwork, then forming a team is the best solution. So we will proceed to the definition of a work team. So it is a group of individuals who work interdependently toward a common goal. So members also share responsibility, combine skills, and rely on one another to achieve results. So a work team means there are different people, different skills, but they can work together as one. So one of the example is the disaster response team. So from the disaster response team, there should be a medical staff, rescuers, logisticians, even first aid, psychological first aiders, so they can work together to uh, to provide services for the people who are victims of calamities. So there are also key teamwork concepts, and number one is identification. So it is how strongly members feel connected to the team. If they see themselves as part of the group, loyalty and cooperation increases. So if there is already a camaraderie, like if members are able to feel belonged and identify themselves as members, just like when you join a school choir, for example, and then you are going to practice every week or once a week, and then you have your own uniform, and then you will be preparing for your performance, and afterwards you will celebrate the the success of the performance. So that's part of the identification. And then the interdependence, um, there is a level of reliance of members for one another, and this is also called the true team. The true teams have a high interdependence. Like for example, if a data entry clerk, they try to input informations into a system, each one work does not directly affect. So that is uh, an example of a low interdependence when employees perform tasks independently with little need to coordinate. While the high interdependence, team members work closely linked to each other, requiring coordination and cooperation to achieve goals. So there are project team, and there are analysts, designers, and project managers that constantly communicate to deliver a client report on time. And for the power differentiation, in effective teams, members try to reduce uh, power gaps. They treat each other as equal, even if positions differ. So, like for example, there you uh, I am the supervisor, and I have staff with different expertise. So I allow my members to share their view and their suggestions to improve a project, to make the project better, because it reduces domination or manipulation if you allow your members to share. Next is the social distance. It refers to emotional closeness among members. So it happens when there is a reduced social distance. It means that we can create good teams if every members they are free to express themselves. Okay, and members are being friendly. They try to make the meetings lighter. The mood is lighter, and they share jokes, stories before meetings. And of course, they also check the emotional well-being of their members. And lastly is the conflict management tactics. So all teams experience conflict, and what matters is how they respond to those conflict. So in conflict management, there are three tactics that members can do, and that is collaborating. When team members share different ideas, when they discuss openly and combine the best suggestions to improve a project. So they, like for example, if the boss and the team disagree for something, but they still work together to merge ideas for better outcome. While the forcing tactic, just one person imposes a solution, and then they try to ignore others' inputs as well. So, like for example, it happens when a manager rejects all the suggestions and insists the team to follow his plan instead. And the last one is accommodating. So there, a team member gives in or stays silent to avoid tension. So this is an example of those members who are a bit of introvert, and they just try to keep their ideas by themselves so that they will be away from any criticisms. Okay, we have different categories of work teams, and number one is collaborative teams. It is also called true teams, and it is highly cooperative with strong communication and shared goals. So example is the research group or research team who are trying to publish a study. So they have collaborative work. And then the emergence team, it is formed spontaneously to handle urgent issues. Like for example, a technical team assembled quickly to fix an unexpected system problem. For the nominal teams, it is also called non-teams, groups called a team but functioning individually. So example of this is the customer service team, where each employee handles their own cases independently and there is no collaboration or shared problem solving. And number 4 is the doomed teams, wherein the team set up with unclear goals, no resources, or poor leadership. So oftentimes these teams, like for example, they develop a product or develop a program, and then they were assigned to create a new software from scratch, so without any idea and also no guidance from the management and limited access to possible tools that they will be using, and that is example of doomed teams. The adversarial teams, teams marked by hidden competition or rivalry. So it happens when there are two sales teams in a company that secretly compete for client accounts and undermining each other instead of collaborating. There are also other types of teams, and that is parallel teams. These teams that work alongside the main organizations to solve problems or suggest improvement. Like for example, a school committee that would like to review a cafeteria menu, so they will try to suggest better or healthier options of food. That's under the parallel teams. For the management teams, it is composed of managers who oversee functions, set directions, and make strategic decisions. So example of this is the school administration team that has principal, coordinators, and department heads that are planning for a academic year or calendar activities for the academic year, for the whole year. And then the project teams, it is formed for a specific task with a deadline. Once a project, they disbanded once it is completed, once a project is completed. So the example of this are a group of teachers planning and organizing an annual school fair. So how does team develop? So teams starts from the stages of development of group process, and that is forming. So in this stage, team members get to know each other and decide the role each member will play. So they only focus on the clarifying of team's mission. They also define goals, establishing rules and procedures, and exploring alternative courses of action to achieve their objective. So it is usually done for a newly formed workmates or teammates. They in this part they try to introduce themselves, and then they try to assign who will be the leader, and they will also plan for a task to do as they will form the group. The second stage is storming. This is the initial harmony. The initial harmony begins to fade. Good behavior disappears. So in this stage, they already have an idea about their colleagues' strengths and weaknesses. So most likely the real behavior is manifested. So team members start to disagree and challenge each other's idea. So for the next stage is norming. The team works to reduce tension from the storming stage. So team members begin to accept the reality of the team by recognizing team leader and collaborating with one another to solve problems. So in this stage, they are already they are fully aware of the different skills of each member, and they can also recognize that even the strength and weaknesses, so they have the ability now to adjust and collaborate with others to solve a certain problem. So for the performing, team functions at a high level with members working efficiently toward achieving goals. So roles are now clearer, collaboration is smooth, the team can solve problems, and they can do decisions effectively. So for the last stage, it's the adjourning. So team completes task and prepare to disband. They reflect on achievements. So after the campaign success, the team will review the results, thank each other, and discuss lessons learned. So for the group conflict, there is what we call perception, wherein this is one of the key components of conflict. So each person has different assumptions, different perceptions, how they see themselves, how they see other people. So according to meta-analysis by Drew and Weingart, most conflict results in lower team performance and lower member satisfaction. So when the team is not performing well, definitely members will get disappointed, discouraged. So a lower satisfaction begins, and then they will perceive others as incompetent. So perception is crucial in developing a strong collaborations with others. So conflict is defined as a psychological and behavioral response that occurs when an individual perceives that another person is obstructing the achievement of a goal. So conflict arises when one person does not agree in achieving a certain vision, a certain task the group has. Okay? And then restricting their rights to act in a certain way. So there are some barriers, or there are some limitations on what to do. So there are people are who disagree for something, and then violating the expected norms or agree on norms or agreements. So sometimes even the standard set has been violated. So that's why conflict arises. So we have also here types of conflict, and the first one is the individual conflict. So it occurs within a single person, often involving eternal stress, unclear role expectations, or personal struggle. So for the individual conflict, usually arises with internal stress, like if there are issues from family, and then the person will bring it to the workplace. Okay, uh, different multiple roles, and then there is also unclear role expectation, so the person is not being instructed clearly on what to do within the organizations. And of course there are personal struggles. It involves the different attitudes because each person has his own temperament and background, so they have different struggles. So it's individual conflict. Where the group conflict happens when the individual's needs are different from the group needs, goals, or norms. So it occurs annually as departments fight for budget allocations and space. So common, and this is very common, the group conflict, because each has own view, and usually we tend to be very subjective on our needs and others' needs as well. So because of those differences, especially when our personal motives are being affected as well. And for the dysfunctional conflict, this is a harmful conflict that weakens the team. It causes frustration, reduces productivity, and damages relationships. So personal attack or refusal to cooperate. It is manifested when there are already frustrations, because the higher the frustrations, the higher the expectations, the higher the frustrations as well. So there are times that we have expectations uh, toward organizations, toward co-workers, and if it is not being met, then people get unmotivated, and not to exert effort to become productive. And usually it causes conflict, even the colleague relationships. And the fourth one is the functional conflict. So this is a positive conflict that strengthens the team. It encourages creativity, improves decisions, and stimulates problem solving. So despite of disagreement, for example, a boss and a worker with disagreements or different view, but later on when they discuss the different pros and cons, and then they will come up into a better solution. So they listen, each member listens to each other, and then they try to adjust uh, their belief toward others, and so that they can be able to have to better solve some problems and concerns. So that is functional conflict. Uh, there are also causes of conflict, and number one is competition for resources. So teams fight when resources are limited, like for example the budget. If there is a lack of budget, no, so this is one of the reasons why there are some problems within the group. It's because they have problem where to get the finances, and as well as the equipment and manpower. This is very common, especially in our in state universities, because we usually lack manpower. So what happens is, um, one teacher, like for example, in one department there are only 3 regular workers, so they have to carry on the different task designations, and so they have limited resources, and it burdens them. And when they are already burned out, it is also the relationship also being affected. Okay, so the next one is the task interdependence. So occurs when the performance of some group members depends on the performance of other group members. So if tasks are connected, delays or mistakes by one member affects the other. So usually if one group, they just depend on the leader, and then the leader will just do everything. He will just command the members. So there are some delays, instead of trying to to divide the task and then achieve something uh, better if they can work as a team while doing different tasks. So that's interdependence. Ano po? And then the next one, the causes of conflict is communication barrier. So misunderstandings due to unclear messages, faulty assumptions, or lack of feedback. This is very common of the conflict within organizations. Usually it happens when the messages received and transferred to another will be different already, the way you interpret it. Okay, and sometimes we usually have subjective rationalizations and tend to jump into conclusions. And then sometimes the lack of feedback, it's important when we have evaluations, but when there's no evaluations, there's no assessment, then you will not know really which part needs improvement. So uh, open communication is very essential, because if there's none, then definitely it causes problem. And next is the differences in belief. Members may disagree or on principles, priorities, or work ethics. Conflict can occur when individuals or groups believe that they are superior to other people or group. This is very common with different belief, different values, different cultures, different principles. So if one member does not fit uh, the standard and belief of one member does not fit among the group, then it creates problem. Okay, so the last one is the jurisdiction ambiguity. Oh, sorry, the second to the last. So we have jurisdiction ambiguity. It is found when geographical boundaries or lines of authority is unclear. So unclear roles or responsibilities provoke disputes. So like for example, two teams argue about who should present the final report. So there is unclear designations and tasks. And then the last one is personality clashes. So differences in attitude, behavior, and temperament may cause friction. So a highly assertive member and a very quiet member disagree on communication style. So that's why it's important to really know the members well or deeply. Even twins have conflicts, right? So especially the workers who are coming from different backgrounds. So personality really clashes. Okay, so we will now look at the different types of people. So we have here the tank, the sniper, the know-it-all, and all of those, they need control. And they are also obsessed with task completion. For the tank, usually they always push somebody, yells, give orders, and intimidate. So how can we handle them? We do not need to counteract or offer excuses. We just have to hold our ground. For the sniper who always uses sarcasms, criticizes, and humiliates others, we also need to call them on their sarcasm and have them explain what was really behind their comment. While the know-it-all, they like to dominate conversations. So they are the center of the crowd. They do not listen, they just talk. And how can we handle them? We need to acknowledge their knowledge. They need recognition. That's why we have to acknowledge them. Make their statement appear as if they are in agreement. So for the whiner, no person and nothing person, they are in need of perfection, and they are also obsessed with task quality. Whiner usually uh, complains, they constantly complain. So we just have to focus their complaints on specific and solutions. For the no person, they disagree with everything, so we do not need to argue with them. Nothing person, they just doesn't do anything, so they are very laid back. So be open, just be open to them, open to uh, their weaknesses as well. So for the yes person and maybe person, they need approval, and so they are obsessed of being liked, and the yes person agrees to everything. So we just have to talk to them honestly and let the person know it is safe to disagree with them. And the maybe person, they won't commit or make decision. So we can help them learn a decision making system and then reassure them about the decisions they make. And for the grenade, the friendly sniper, and I think they know it all. They all need attention and they are obsessed of being appreciated. Grenade likes to throw tantrums, so it's better not to show anger, acknowledge their complaint, and give them a chance to cool down. For the groupthink, it occurs when a team values harmony over critical thinking, leading them to make poor decisions. So Janice developed this concept after studying the Bay of Pigs invasion of 1961. So he was explaining here how some of the nation's brightest and most capable leaders approved a poorly designed plan. So the symptoms of this, usually there are pressure to agree, silence mistaken for approval, dismissing alternatives, believing the group is always right. So one of the example here is the team that adopts a new system without evaluating risk. So they just try to decide as quick as possible. They just look at the small piece of the puzzle, but not really looking at the bigger picture. And then how can we prevent groupthink? We need to encourage discussion, divide them into groups, subgroups, and then assign somebody to lead. Okay, so groupthink often occur when the group is highly cohesive, valuing unity over critical evaluation. So sometimes uh, too much familiarity also is dangerous because they are strongly connected to each other, and sometimes they will not look at the disadvantages because they value more on the relationships of being together as a group. So it is insulated from qualified outsiders, limiting diverse perspective. So usually they are now they just focus on what they already have rather than allowing others to share new ideas for a better change. Oh no, what happened? Okay, so to perform well, teams needs clear goals, high interdependence, open communication, low power differentiation, low social distance, collaborative conflict management, and ability to turn conflict into functional rather than dysfunctional outcomes. Oops. Yeah, for the conclusion, Effective work teams are built on trusts, interdependence, and shared commitment to organizational goals. So they foster psychological safety, equality, and cohesion, enhancing collaboration and problem solving. Understanding these dynamics enables members to work efficiently, adaptively, and harmoniously toward complex workplace environment. So, as I am studying this topic, I remembered when I was assigned as a department chair with 30 faculty members. Um, it was really a struggle, especially when you are dealing with professionals already with different backgrounds, different personality, different view, different belief, especially in a state university, because um, there are challenges. You cannot deny that there are really differences. And of course, I am learning as well through that experiences. There are arguments, there are the misunderstanding, disagreement, but all in all, I realize that it's important to really listen to the members as well, allowing them to share their thoughts, their suggestions, their ideas. Also respecting what they have, their 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 principles, their belief as well as leaders. So um, as leaders, it's important to have an open communication with your teammates, with your workmates, especially when you establish trust. They can comfortably share what they really have in mind, and allowing their sense of autonomy, because that's important, to still have their individuality despite of being um, in one group with differences. Okay, so I also reflect on this verse, the Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. It says that two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them fails down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. So this is very um, applicable, whether in the family, in the workplace, in the group counseling sessions. So it reminds me how important individuals within the family, within the group. So the burdens that we are carrying, it lightens up when we have members, when we have collaborators who are also committed to achieve a certain goal in the institutions, in the organizations, even in the family. So this is really true. It's better to have another one. It's better to have a couple, no, a husband and a wife, children, and with everyone around you within the community, because from there you will also learn to grow. You will also discover your strength, even your weaknesses. And I think that the best thing to do is just to accept your weaknesses, not pointing out to others make mistakes, but instead helping each other to grow as a team, to grow as a family, to grow as individuals professionally. So I hope, Doc, it um, gives a little glimpse of how important work teams and how to resolve conflict within the teams. So, thank you so much, po. And if you have some questions, then you can share it here. You can ask. Thank you and God bless.